Entering the game is like going into a dream, but it's not a dream. It's entertainment. At least that's what I had in mind when I created it. Okay, begin. Stalking Justice. Level 1. Suspicion. The virtual pair of warrior cops appear battle-ready in full assault gear, visor helmets, Gatling lasers, and Jetfire boots. Hammerman asks me, "You got a lead for us?" I tell him, "I'm not sure." Stilletta says, "We've been told you have reason to suspect someone of something evil." "Yes, but..." Hammerman raises a disdainful eyebrow, telling her, "You know, I think he may be one of those kind. You know what I mean?" She shakes her head. "What are we going to do with him?" Hammerman flips a coin, inviting her to call it. Stilletta loses the toss and withdraws into the shadows. Hammerman tells me, "Look, there's bad stuff going on around here. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. People are scared to death, hiding in their habits, petrified in a world filled with mayhem. Now a regular guy like you knows things he's heard. You have heard things, haven't you, Vinny? Yes, there's been a kidnapping. And you suspect someone, don't you?" "No, not just suspect. I know who's behind it, and something has to be done about her." He looks at me puzzled and says, "Her?" "Yes, she arranged the whole thing." He asks me, "Are you trying to shift the focus of this investigation?" Then he steps back and calls Stilletta forward. She asks me, "What woman? Who are you talking about?" I'm thinking to myself, oh man, this is my very own flesh and blood mother I'm about to squeal on. And I stop before telling them any more. Stilletta says, "Tell me, Vinny, what are we doing here?" "I'm just following instructions," I tell her. They step back into the shadows and put their heads together. Then Hammerman comes forward and peruses my face, close up, very close up. I wonder, why did I design him to look that way? To look at me that way? He comments to his partner, "You know, I think we may not have to look any further for our evilish perp." I can almost smell his breath through my in-vision, and all I can think of is, how foul. Stilletta suggests that the brute take a break, and he recedes into the background. Taking over, she exercises the guile I designed into her. She smiles at me, saying, "You know, Vinny, my partner there, he gets a little upset sometimes, and that's understandable. All this mayhem takes its toll on a crime fighter. So unless you tell us otherwise, the way he sees it, you might be more involved in this than you're willing to admit." Laying her steel gauntlet hands lightly on my virtual shoulders, she adds, "But I see you differently. You know, I think you're just a regular guy in over his head. But I have a good feeling about you. I don't think you're a bad person at all. Maybe you've just been in some bad company. And maybe, we as a team, maybe we can turn this mess you're in into something positive. Because I don't really think you're one of those evil people who do harm to others. You're not one of those kind of people, are you, Vinny?" "No," I tell her. It's a relief just to hear a kind voice. "But there are evilists out there," she continues, "and I think you know a thing or two about that, don't you, Vinny? Maybe you know someone who's been talking about evil and all. You do know someone like that, don't you, Vinny?" I admit, yes. She says, "All we're looking for is a name. Just a name." Maybe someone you might have heard of, someone saying things, disturbing things. And maybe this guy doesn't even mean to hurt anyone. Maybe he's not even evil at all. I mean, you might not know for sure yet. And perhaps he's just confused and needs our help. Maybe together we can help him. I'll bet you'd like to help him, wouldn't you? Oh, I tell her, I don't know. Well, we won't be able to help him unless you help us. That's all I'm asking, Vinny. Just a little help. Then she stiffens. But if you won't help, and turns to the hammerman. What was that they said would happen if he refuses to cooperate? Hammerman smiles as he massages his bulging neck muscles. Is that my own voice I hear blurt out? Dr. Bull! Yes, I said it. And then I'm shown video of a man in a black mask wearing a Hawaiian shirt and white pants. Is this him, they ask me? Yes. If you say so, I confirm. And I wonder if I can ever feel lower than I do right now. It's morning. I awaken my room to the sound of yelling outside. I go out on the landing and look down on a crowd filling the street, pressing against the chain-link fence and gate that barely secures the motel property. A troop of cop bots keep the mob at bay. A woman attempts to squeeze through the gate and is brought to her knees by a stun gun. A man is boosted up the motel sign pole and rips the word "no" from "no vacancy." The crowd breaks into spontaneous Patvo Pango. I join Al behind the barrier. What's going on? Where did all these people come from? From everywhere. What do they want? They have no place to stay. I suggest to Al, since we're the only people in the motel, why not rent them the vacant rooms? Can't do that, says Al. Why not? The moms are coming. I go back up to my room, lie on my bed, and check a star-killing update. I don't know what it is about this reality news that won't let me go. Must be some kind of addiction. On InVision, Billy Boyman is seen through the bars of his cell as he cowers in a corner, trying to shield his face from the prying cameras on the walls all around him. The news thing tells us, DNA testing has just confirmed paternity of the murdered trans star Show Queen's child. And just as everyone suspected, Boyman's the daddy all right. A pair of news things tell us, news now, or before it even happens. Crime you care about. Crime worth watching. And now for other breaking news. A news thing continues, from his subterranean bunker somewhere in the drought-plagued Sahel, Doom Man has just claimed credit for sinking the supertanker Gulf Spirit. Listen as he tells the world how he did it. We nuked it. The news thing says, there was no flash, no cloud, no radiation. Well, when you pop a nuke 1,000 meters under, that much water provides a heck of a lot of cover. I'll tell you one thing for sure, it does make one hell of a bubble. Do you have more nuclear weapons? Asked the news thing. That would be a safe assumption. How many bombs do you have? Let me put it this way. Any ship in port will be better off staying right where it is. The scene changes. At the White House, President Stickman says, we don't know what happened. Another news thing says, heavy bombings are spooking homeowners across the nation as mass mailings of tiny explosive devices turn UPS into a delivery system of mass destruction. Aerial video shows people running in terror down the street of a Abbey Hood. A woman says, one of those bomblets was delivered right through my mother's food slot. A man says, They put them in the mailboxes of a whole row of habbies, maybe 300 of them. A child says, I'm afraid of everything. A man tells us, it explodes in your face like flaming phosphorus. Another man says, and the jokelets are as bad as the bomblets. They're flooding my in-vision. Look at these messages. Boo! Duck and cover. Better run quick before the boogeyman gets you. I go back outside to check on the scene below in the street. Auto cops are clearing a pathway through the crowd, and Al, with Sis at his side, escorts a line of 20 young women from Motherland down the street and through the motel gate. Al opens the lock on the gate and they file into the office. Then they come back out, each heading to her own motel room. Sis passes by me and says, I'm next door, on the other side now. Before she shuts her door, I ask her, don't you want to know about Dad? She says, oh yeah, hey, how is Dad anyway? I'm wondering if there's any point in even telling her when I get a call from Auto Broker. I ask him, what? And he says, this is why I told you to hold on to that stock, Vinny. Look at News Now. The news thing says, Energetic stock spikes once again to an all-time high. With the acquisition of Aquaculture, the world's leading producer of fish and fish byproducts, this latest buyout comes on the heels of the mega giant's takeover of Cornfab. Energetic's CEO sums it up this way as he tells us, petroleum, ethanol, corn, and now as the major supplier of fertilizer to grow corn, this is Energetic's end-to-end fuel cycle. From now on, we got it all. An advertisement shows the first morning light, painting a utopian agricultural landscape. Sunlight cresting a mountain ridge. In the valley below, fish, cattle, pigs, hamburgers, pizzas, cars, trains, and planes flow from the mouth of a mammoth cornucopia. An Energetic's logo blazes like the sun in a clear blue sky. A female voice says, Energetics, fueling you and the very world you live in. The news thing continues the fish story. And there's a lot more to aquaculture than just fish. For more, we go live to this mega fish farm off the Ivory Coast. Looking down from an auto chopper, the checkered board fish enclosure stretches all the way to the horizon. The ocean's surface is whipped to a froth by the frenzy of captive fish. The news thing says, growing salmon, tuna, cod, sardines, squid, and I understand they even have plans for a whale farm. 9 out of 10 fish that find their way to your table come fresh from aquatic farms just like this. Now, see that queue of inbound ships on the western horizon? Those are multi-use corn factories or transports lining up at the edge of the facility. Each vessel, a segment of the dedicated shipping pipeline of a major corn belt producer, filled to the gunnels with 20,000 metric tons of cornmeal for the gullets of an estimated 16 billion fish in this facility alone. And as soon as the offloading of meal is complete, these corn-hauling behemoths automatically transform themselves into fish factory transporters as they ready themselves to be filled with fresh catch. And that's just the fish side of this incredible story. See that other line of transporters over there on the eastern horizon? Those are the byproducts transporters. We'll get to them in a minute. And this story is just as amazing below the waterline, too. Let's get inside this submersible and take a closer look. Below the surface, you can see through the steel netting that this section is thick with sharks, fattened to bursting on corn-fed chum. Notice how opaque and foggy looking the water appears inside the pens? If you were swimming in this stew, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face in this brown blizzard. But that's not snow falling, and if you're in the corn business, you know it's snowing brown gold. What is that stuff, you're wondering? Fish feces. Millions of tons of fish feces. And I'll tell you more about that as we descend deeper into the bowels of this incredible food-creating machine. But now, and gift this for efficiency, there are more than 13 million sharks in this single pen alone. And would you believe it? At one time, sharks were considered an endangered species. This truly is incredible. You'll see what I mean as we descend further. There it is. Now, down there on the bottom, see that mountain of shark carcasses piling up on the top of the shark feces? Those dead animals are rejects which fail to meet the high-quality standard required of food that graces your dinner table. Let's zoom in for a closer look. Notice the dying sharks with their top fins cut off? The ones spiraling down in crazy-making circles? When these sharks eventually succumb to their injuries, their refuse hulks simply sink and mix with the feces, adding to the rich bottom kill layer covering the square-mile floor of this enclosure to a depth of more than 100 meters. Pure brown gold. But that's not all. See over there on the bottom? That big drain pipe sucking up the feces carcass morass? The truly amazing thing about this technocycle is that every last pound of fish and fish byproduct is recycled right back into our food system. Once this material is dried and shipped, there's nothing finer on earth for fertilizing corn than this made-to-order fish offal. In this aquatic wonderland, nothing, and I mean nothing, goes to waste. But this is really nothing new. Remember in school, we all learned about the West Indies cycle? When the New World economy transformed sugarcane into rum, and rum into money, and money into slaves, ready to grow more sugar for the burgeoning markets of Europe? Well, aquaculture has taken that model to a whole nother level. By optimizing the art of cornfish symbiosis, energetics technologists have fine-tuned consumption and excretion to perfection. Onox describes it as poetry in motion. And believe me, this hyper-exploitation of sea and soil is profitable. Very profitable. I call Autobroker and ask him, what's the value of the energetics? I still own some, right? Hard to say, he tells me. It's moving up so fast, but up is up, that's for sure. Back down in the bunker, inside the casket, I make a call to Marzipan. She's exuberant, now sitting on Dad's lap, cradling his sack-covered head in her arms. She tells me, he can feel me now, but I don't think he can hear me. A feeble voice from inside the bag asks, "Is that you, honey?" And she kisses the sack. I tell her, "Tell them I want to make a deal. I can get money, lots of money. I have stock. Tell them they can check it out. Whatever I have, they can have it all." Marzipan disappears for a moment, then returns. I ask her, "What do they say about the ransom?" They said, "That's interesting." Interesting? And? They said, "You're doing fine. Just keep following instructions."